In 1564, Siberia experienced one of its most intense winters. The region, already known for its brutal cold, became the setting for a terrifying series of events. This harsh winter was so extreme that it became known as the Winter of the Wolf, a season marked by a surge in wolf attacks on humans. The cold temperatures were unbearable, but what made the winter so deadly were the wolves, who, driven by hunger, started to encroach on human settlements. The wolves were relentless, and their attacks caused widespread panic. This period became infamous for the fear it instilled and the challenges it presented to the people of Siberia. This story is about survival, the power of nature, and how the interaction between humans and wildlife can have unexpected consequences. Let's explore how this dreadful season unfolded and the toll it took on both the people and the animals. Siberia, in the 16th century, was already a difficult place to live. Vast, remote and cold, the region was sparsely populated with only a few Russian settlers scattered throughout. But in the winter of 1564, temperatures dropped to unprecedented levels, making life almost impossible for humans and animals alike. Siberians were used to harsh winters, but this one was different. Temperatures plummeted, and deep snow covered the land, which made travel and hunting even harder. For the wolves, the weather meant that their usual prey, such as rabbits, deer, and smaller animals, became increasingly scarce. The intense cold disrupted their hunting patterns, and the scarcity of food pushed them to be more desperate. Unable to find sufficient food in the forests, the wolves began to venture into villages, looking for anything they could find to eat. As their hunger grew, the wolves became bolder, and attacks on humans and livestock became more frequent. This was a perfect storm, an extreme winter combined with a desperate and hungry wolf population, creating a deadly situation that would affect the lives of many. As the winter progressed, it became clear that the wolves were not just a threat to livestock, but to humans as well. Wolves, normally shy and elusive, began to behave unusually. They formed larger packs and attacked in groups. In Siberian villages, people began to fear for their lives. It wasn't uncommon for wolves to enter villages, dragging away animals, and sometimes even attacking people directly. The isolation of the settlements made it difficult for people to get help or escape. Survivors from this time recall terrifying accounts of wolves appearing in the night, their howls echoing through the cold air. In some cases, wolves would wait for someone to step outside their home before attacking. The attacks weren't just random, they were deliberate and persistent. Entire families would have to barricade themselves inside their homes, keeping their fires burning and weapons at the ready, hoping the wolves wouldn't break through. These wolves were unlike those the settlers had encountered before. They had become aggressive and fearless, driven by an intense need to survive in an environment that was equally unforgiving to them. The consequences of the Winter of the Wolf were catastrophic. Whole villages were affected, with some even facing the destruction of their entire population. People were forced to stay indoors, unable to tend to their fields or livestock because of the constant threat of wolves. This lack of access to food led to a devastating famine, adding to the hardship. The number of wolf attacks was staggering. In some areas, it was reported that wolves would appear in packs so large that they seemed almost like an army, moving through the snow with deadly efficiency. As families lost their cattle, horses, and other livestock, their survival became even more uncertain. The very livelihoods of these early Russian settlers were at risk, and the attacks caused fear and despair across Siberia. In some remote villages, entire communities disappeared, either driven away by the wolves or wiped out entirely. For the people of Siberia, the winter of 1564 was a season that not only tested their physical endurance, but also their emotional resilience. The fear of the wolves became an ever-present reality that they could not escape. In response to the growing threat, local authorities took extreme measures. The Russian military and hunters organized large-scale wolf hunts in an attempt to reduce the wolf population. These hunts were massive, with entire communities participating, using traps, rifles, and even bait to lure the wolves into areas where they could be trapped or shot. However, despite these efforts, the wolves proved to be an incredibly resilient enemy. The hunts were not always successful, as the wolves would often flee or retreat into the wilderness. The snow and cold made it difficult for hunters to track them, and the wolves quickly adapted to their environment. It became a battle of attrition, wolves hungry for food versus humans, desperate to protect their families. Some survivors of the winter recount how they would work in shifts, with some people staying on watch while others slept or rested, constantly guarding against wolf attacks. The cold, the hunger, and the fear were constant threats to survival, and the people of Siberia were pushed to their limits. The attempts to reduce the wolf numbers were not enough to fully relieve the terror that had gripped the region. The winter of the wolf did eventually come to an end, as all harsh winters eventually do, but the legacy of that terrible time lived on. The event became deeply ingrained in the local folklore, passed down through generations. Stories of the terrifying wolf attacks and the courage of the settlers became part of the region's history. The effects of the winter of the wolf also led to changes in how the people of Siberia viewed their relationship with nature. It was a harsh reminder of how vulnerable humans were when faced with the raw forces of nature. For the settlers, it was a wake-up call to the unpredictable dangers of the wilderness they had chosen to inhabit. Today, the winter of the wolf is remembered as a testament to survival in one of the harshest environments on Earth. The people who lived through it endured hardships that most can hardly imagine, yet they overcame these challenges, leaving behind stories of their resilience. The wolves, once a symbol of nature's beauty, became a symbol of the untamable and sometimes terrifying side of the wild. The winter of the wolf is a fascinating chapter in the history of Siberia, a reminder of the unpredictability of nature and the strength of human resilience. It was a time when the people of Siberia were forced to confront both extreme cold and a fearsome predator, and their survival depended on their ability to adapt and fight back. The legacy of this winter and the stories of the wolves live on as a haunting reminder of the challenges that shaped early Russian settlers in Siberia. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more history content, and see you in the next one.